In May of last year, I made a video about the second demo release of Sonic 2020, now renamed Sonic Omens. In it, I was pretty tough on the game when it came to the level design, boss design, and the numerous glitches I encountered. It's been over a year, and after a cheeky little update, the full game has been released. So today, I will be taking a look at Sonic Omens and see what changed from the previous build, aside from the final chapters, and see if my mind has been... Who are we kidding? You see the title, you know what's coming up, let's talk about Sonic Omens. After we hear a word from this video's sponsor, Skillshare. This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Ever had the urge to learn a new skill or learn new ways to improve on a skill you currently have? That's where Skillshare comes in. With thousands of classes available, there's a little something for everyone. I've always struggled with what would make an interesting YouTube video to make, so I chose to take up Marcus Brownlee's course on what makes an interesting YouTube video. Watching him break down what goes into a full MKBHD video has given me some ideas on how to approach the videos that I make. Not only that, but I learned how to better optimize my workflow, so that these videos don't take so long to make when I decide to make editing or script writing harder on myself. Other benefits of Skillshare would be the ad-free viewing, so you can start a class and not have to worry about being forced to stop for a moment. If you're interested in discovering a new skill or refining a current skill, you can become a member with the link provided below this video. In fact, the first 1,000 people to use the link will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Give it a shot, and a huge thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Before we get into the video proper, there's a Google Doc sharing some big issues that won't really be covered in this video. Discussing it here would be more along the lines of a drama video, and I don't want to do that. That and also some of the content is downright disturbing. If you are interested in reading it, I will link it below. Just know that I will be critiquing the game only. If you haven't seen my previous video, I didn't really go over much aside from the gameplay. That's kind of what I do around here. Sonic Omens is a 3D boost game in the Infinity Engine that allows you to play as Sonic, Tails, and Shadow throughout the 7-chapter story. Infinity Engine games are not really my favorite as they usually require beefier PC specs, so it's not as appealing to those with mid-tier PCs or lower. For better or for worse, I was put in a position where I had to upgrade the PC I make my videos on, so it's finally possible to experience Sonic Omens in all its glory, or lack thereof. So I actually never really covered the story of Sonic Omens, but it's pretty crazy. So, Shadow is working for an evil Meta-Rex that befriended Chris from Sonic X. This creature, named Exiled, wants to wipe everything out of existence, because Chris was able to bring peace before his death, and it was all undone after he died. Sonic and Eggman chase after the emeralds, and Exiled eventually catches up to them, thanks to taking control of Gun and Shadow. This is where we find out Chris was trying to see Sonic again, I'm guessing, and the type of travel he was going for caused him to age so fast that he only really had 15 years to go. That's where he befriended Exiled. Why was Shadow under the control of another character? To get rid of some visions of a character. If you know, then you know. Sonic, Tails, and Eggman pursue Exiled at the Citadel, and only Sonic makes it there to have the final showdown with him. It's super weird, and as you notice through the cutscenes, it really turns into references to the game. Also, Chip is involved, so are the Gaia Temples, but then we also have the Chao and the Master Emerald. Knuckles only really has 3 appearances in this game, and Rouge is in the game. The voice acting is something else. I stand by what I said last time. All of the voice actors needed retakes, and the voice actor for Shadow really might not have been the perfect fit for that role. There are times where it becomes a little too difficult to understand what they're saying. Sure, there are subtitles, but I think a requirement should be that it needs to be easy to understand the dialogue of the character without the subtitles. Dr. Eggman's voice actor has a similar issue, but he's a bit easier to understand. Retakes would have been really needed so that way some words could be properly pronounced, or so that way certain lines aren't just coming out right away.
15 years to live. Well, climbing up to the GON's highest position and changing.
It's a slight nitpick, but it was another thing that threw me off. Sonic's voice actor sounds like he's just doing a Sonic impression with little to no real range with that voice.
Because without a reason. Think you can track Eggman's location with this hunk of junk?
And Chip sounded like he was doing a Charmy impression.
I will always protect you.
There were also times where Tails' voice actor would go from sounding like the character to just regularly speaking. It's very easy to pick up on. Again, there are ways to improve it, but unfortunately none of those changes were made from the last demo to this one. As for the music in this game is fantastic. I don't really have a bad thing to say about it. The music in the last 3 episodes are alright. Not as good as the other chapters, but they do a serviceable job. Oh, and the final boss theme is anime as hell. This one is such a banger. It's good stuff. Now that I don't really have any restrictions when it comes to the settings, I can see the game for what it is now. It looks pretty good. Sure, there are some points where you're going to notice them pop in, maybe there's a screw up with a cutscene, but there wasn't really anything that was too noticeable, except for this weird shot. It's very minor things that don't affect the game too much. Now that we have that out of the way, we have the gameplay. Just like the music and visuals haven't changed, the same can almost be said for the gameplay of Sonic Omens. It's a 3D Sonic game where you play through speed and flight levels as Sonic, Tails, and Shadow throughout the story. Sonic and Shadow blitz through their levels with a boost, homing attack, double jump, stomp, and a few other moves that are shared. Where they differ are their abilities. Sonic has the bounce, the light dash, a grapple hook-like item that comes out of Chip's bracelet, and Shadow has the chaos dash, control, blast, and spear. They have their use, though situational. One issue that persists has to be the double jump. There are times where the first jump is skipped, so important jumps are ruined when the player realizes that they just got screwed over and are going through their second jump. Aside from that, it controls well enough, and there is an option to improve it. By switching the controls to the Unleashed option, it would allow the boost to be on the X button, but it also allows aiming to be on the left trigger and using the ability to be on the right trigger. I found this to be a little easier to use. But what could have improved it even more is allowing players to aim with the right analog stick, making it closer to a first-person shooter. I mean, the homing attack requires moving the right stick to aim at the enemy to use it on, so why not make it work with this as well? It just feels more natural that way. As mentioned earlier, Tails is playable, but only in the Hyper Tornado. This thing controls like ass. Going forward is fine, and so is boosting and using the weapons. I have no problems with those. The problem is maneuvering. Believe it or not, but you can actually go backwards on the Tornado, but about 1/4 the speed. You can also turn around, but it's just as painfully slow as backing up. It makes sense when you boost and turn, but when you need to turn while going at normal speed, it just feels awful. You can also roll to dodge to the left or the right. It's okay, but it's very situational because there's not enough room to use it in the 3 tornado levels. More on them later. That's about it for the specific issues I had with the gameplay. Now, for the levels. Wellspring, Chow Paradise, Area 99, White Jungle, and Waterfall Chase are the most fun levels in the game. They complement the engine really well, whether it's super straightforward or very complex in design. They keep it fast, fun, and gives the players a good amount of platforming depending on the scenario. These are a lot of fun to go back to. The rest of the game is dog shit. We're gonna cover the bosses later, so let's get to the first Tails level, damn it. So you're going through really cramped hallways in the Grand Canyon. Not only that, but there are going to be times where robots pop up that could potentially destroy you in a few moments because of their pinpoint accurate lasers. Eventually you're going to get to a cave area where the wind takes over, and you could easily slam into the wall and lose all of your health. These are not very fun to control. The next level is very similar, but you have to dodge the serpent that's chasing you down. The issues with these are mostly to do with the handling of the tornado, so it makes the levels not fun to deal with. Finally is the boss fight with the snake, but more on that later. Back to Sonic's levels, unfortunately the next awful one is Tree Palace. It's a giant tree that you need to do a lot of platforming on, and if you make a lot of progress and fall, then you have to redo all of it again. Sure, you could just respawn, but I feel like there's more issues with this level than just, oh, you're climbing up really high. We're getting to those. It also forces you to wall run for different routes, and wall running is not that easy to do. It seems like it's really easy to just slip and end up plummeting down and having to redo all of that again. Even though I wasn't in the level for too long, I still despise what this level is and what it's supposed to accomplish. GUN Arsenal isn't really a bad level. I just found the use of the Chaos abilities to be a bit of a pace breaker, so it makes it not as fun to play. Not bad, but not great. Moldy Jungle is pretty crap because there's just too much annoying homing attacks to make it through the level. It has the player pressing switches and not suffocating to get through it. I actually got stuck in some plant and couldn't jump out of it, which caused me to die. Aside from that, it's very boring and uneventful. Finally, some new levels. United Railroad. Fuck this level for its use of quickly disappearing floors. They kept triggering the double jump, so it led to a bunch of undeserved deaths. And the level designer must have a fetish for spikes because it's something that you'll see throughout the game, but it gets really out of hands in this level. The area with the camera forcing the game so that it has this side-scroller perspective is also pretty annoying when everything sort of blends in together. There's also a forced combat section that goes on for far too long and has this collapsing floor. And that's not even the worst part. There's one more area that requires you to use the Chaos Dash, and it's actually possible to lock yourself out of going any further if you mess up once. Why is it designed this way? After that, oh, another Tails level. This one has a lot of the same issues, but two more things. Instant kill fire and lasers. Trash. this level is trash. Actually, this leads into a segment where you need to avoid this giant bird that takes half your health. Once you figure out the timing, it's a cakewalk. I'm not saying that's a good part of the level, I'm just saying it's better than everything else, but everything else was crap. Finally, the last traditional level. This introduced a new hazard, electricity. This not only knocks out all of the rings off Sonic, but it also removes his entire boost meter. So the large number of enemies are near death sentences because they are invincible when they use their electricity. How fun! This level also includes the use of a unique behind the back angle exclusive to this level. It actually makes it harder to position Sonic to get the homing attacks off. Thankfully, the laser from Chip's bracelet makes it easier to get through these sections until the very last one. This is where they move on a conveyor and parts go in opposite directions so they can go far enough to be unreachable. In the wall running sections, any hazard will instantly kill Sonic, and this is why I say it's not that great, because these levels take up more of the game than the fun ones do. And we're not even done. It's time for the cherry on top of this sundae, the bosses. These things take way too many hits to knock out, making all of the battles exhausting, even when you've already figured out their attack patterns. Not only that, but the game actually doesn't tell you this unless you go out of your way to look at the controls. You can actually focus the camera on a boss by clicking the analog stick. Believe it or not, but this is actually vital for keeping track of them because some boss fights started off with the free cam. I mentioned that the Dragoon E0 should be toned down a bit just for how early this boss is, but I guess if you can manage your boost, then you'll be able to avoid the attacks. Also, don't forget to focus that camera. Just know it might catch you off guard at least once. As for the snake in the Grand Canyon, this thing is super easy. Use the roll maneuvers to avoid its charge, and then pump its guts full of lead. Don't forget the rockets as well. The vortex is pretty boring, and I managed to damage boost through the entire first phase of the fight. Phase 2 is the annoying part because it doesn't take much for it to fling you into this poisonous water. Aside from that, it's not good. Metal Ember has 2 attacks that get annoying, the barrage of missiles and the turret shots. The latter will do a good job of homing in on Sonic, so avoiding them isn't the easiest to pull off, thanks to the Infinity Engine. You also better use your boost wisely or else you're never catching up to this boss. Not only that, but the littering of spikes and these unmovable cars really don't help either. The Maria boss fight is awful. First, there's a ring attack that you'll need to regain camera controls to see where it's going to be landing. Then there's a barrage of spike balls that rotate around the arena, and the issue with this is how many of them there are. Is someone really expected to not run out of chaos control while avoiding this? And somehow, it manages to get worse. Exiled. Remember the electricity? Yeah, this is going to play a big role in the fight as it's the reason that any damage you take will remove your boost meter. In this fight, you need to charge it to 100% by either hitting these water bubble things or hitting the enemies so you can turn into Supersonic and do damage. The idea is to spam the homing attack, but I've seen a glitch where it would just do nothing. With the ideal conditions, it will take 3 sets of attacks to defeat the first phase. The problem is that a lot of his attacks are way too accurate or have way too big of a hitbox, so you're bound to take damage often. There's also a limited number of rings in the arena, so you better hope to turn to Supersonic at some point. I think the worst one is this stupid laser attack. You're supposed to boost under him. You really don't get much of a hint at that, you kinda have to figure it out. Phase 2 is similar, but taking damage as Supersonic depletes your ring count and removes all the energy you've charged. This time it happens automatically instead of hitting certain things on the arena. The difference is that there's an arena attack and some swipe attacks that will always hit you if you are close enough. These fights are unbearable, and with my first attempt, it took a very long time to finish. My second attempt wasn't as bad, but it really goes to show exactly how these bosses were never tested properly. Fun fact, or not so fun, dying while exiled is charging an attack will cause them to get an earlier attack at the start of the next attempt. Another fun fact is you have to start a new game and start at episode 7 to redo this fight. It's a very lazy way to keep Shadow out of the final boss. And when I defeated Exiled, I actually walked away from my PC because I really didn't care about the rest of the story. It's not worth it for the few levels that are fun because you have to put up with the weird story, the awful levels, the rage-inducing bosses. Once again, my recommendation is to only play it if you're curious and if you can tolerate bad level design. For anyone else looking for the ideal boost game, you have to look elsewhere. With this video coming to a close, I can finally say this. This video was a grueling process. I wasn't interested originally because I had a feeling I still wouldn't like it, and I was right. But I also felt that the original video wasn't as complete because it was missing the last 3 episodes. So I have that sense of finality. And yeah, this will be the last time that I ever go in depth with Sonic Omens. With the contents of the previously mentioned Google Doc becoming more apparent, I think it's better to not mention this game in a scripted video ever again. So that's where I stand. I've made my last video on it, and I can finally move forward. Sonic Omens is not worth your time. Hey everyone, thank you for watching the video. If you have any thoughts on it, there is a comment section, feel free to use it, but be civil. If you like the video, click like and subscribe if you're new. Right now, I want to shout out the channel members and patrons. They are the ones who are supporting the channel with a monthly contribution, and the $1 tier members have their names scrolling on the bottom of the screen. But the $5 tier members paid to have their names shouted out. They are Dork in a Hat, Tactical Discord, Martin YT Blaze, and Ryan Rolls over on Patreon. If you want to support the channel even more, you can click the join button or use the Patreon link at patreon.com/GottaBeFrank. Thank you all for your extra support. It is greatly appreciated. You are all awesome. You can also find me on Twitter, Discord, and even Twitch when I get back to streaming. Links are in the description. And with that said, I hope you all have a wonderful and safe day. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.